If you're running a growing business and IT still feels like something you fix when it breaks, then today's episode is going to hit you close to home. Because I want to talk about a shift that more and more successful Flemish SMEs are making. A shift away from the reactive IT, away from the stress and surprises and firefighting, and towards something far more predictable and scalable and frankly calmer. The Managed Service Provider Model, or the MSP for short. Welcome back to IT for Growth, the podcast where we look at how technology can actually help your business grow instead of slowing it down. No buzzwords, no hype, just practical insights you can use. Let me start with a situation I see almost every week. A business with 20, 30, sometimes 50 employees, they grow fast. They use Microsoft 365, some cloud tools, maybe a CRM, a couple of laptops that are all slightly different. IT has always kind of worked. Until suddenly it doesn't. Someone gets locked out. Mail stops syncing, a laptop dies, a security warning pops up, and then the panic starts. And at that moment, IT becomes urgent. Someone gets called, an invoice follows, the problem is fixed temporarily, and then everyone goes back to business, hoping it won't happen again. And that's not a strategy, that's just gambling with your own business. And here's the uncomfortable truth. In a growing company, IT problems don't scale linearly, they scale exponentially. Every extra user, every extra device, and every extra application increases the complexity. Without structure, that complexity will eventually bite you, and really hard. This is exactly where the MSP model comes in, and not as an IT supplier, not as a help desk you can call when something breaks, but as a long-term partner that takes responsibility for your stability, security, and evolution of your IT environment. In an MSP model, IT stops being a collection of loose tools and becomes a managed system. Devices are monitored proactively, updates are planned, not postponed, security isn't an afterthought but a baseline, and backups are tested and not assumed to be working. And most importantly, there are clear agreements about support, about response times, and about responsibilities. And for many SME owners, that predictability alone is a relief. No more surprise invoices for every small issue, and no more wondering whether something's important is being forgotten. You know what you're paying, you know what you're getting, and you know who is accountable. But the real value of an MSP model goes beyond peace of mind. It directly supports your growth. And think about onboarding a new employee. In a reactive IT setup, that often means chaos, a laptop that needs to be ordered last minute, accounts that are created manually, access that is either missing or too broad. In an MSP setup, onboarding is a process. Hardware is standardized, accounts are provisioned automatically, security policies are applied from day one, and your new hire is productive on their first day and not on their third month. Now think about security. As small and medium businesses are no longer too small to be interesting for cybercriminals. In fact, they are often easier targets. And the MSP model treats security as a continuous process, monitoring, patching, endpoint protection, backups, and awareness. Not because it's trendy, but because downtime, data loss, or a ransomware incident can cripple a growing company. Another thing I want to be very clear about, MSP is not about over-engineering your IT. It's about right-sizing it. And you don't need enterprise complexity, but you need the enterprise thinking, applied pragmatically, standard where possible, and flexible where needed. Always aligned with how your business actually works. And for existing customers, moving to an MSP model often feels like a mindset shift. And they are used to calling when something goes wrong, and suddenly IT issues become rarer, less visible, and that can feel strange at first until they realize that the absence of problems is actually the point of the MSP model. For prospects, the MSP model is often a wake-up call. They start to see IT not as a cost center, but as an operational foundation, and sometimes that supports productivity, enables remote work, protects data, and allows them to scale without constantly reinventing the wheel. And let's be honest, in today's market, professionalism matters, and your customer expect you to be reachable, secure, and reliable. If your internal IT is fragile, the fragility eventually shows on the outside. And emails missed, system slows, data scattered on MSP model helps you show up as the mature, trustworthy business you want to be. So, if there's one takeaway from this episode from today, let it be this. The MSP model isn't about outsourcing responsibility. It's about sharing IT with a partner who thinks ahead so you don't have to put out fires later. It's about turning IT into something boring, predictable, and stable. And in business, boring is often exactly what allows growth to happen. And if you're still treating IT as something you fix when it breaks, that might have worked when you were smaller, but growth changed the rules. And the sooner your IT model reflects that, the smoother that growth will be. And thanks for listening to IT for Growth. If this episode has resonated, share it with another founder or a manager who is still firefighting their IT. And if you want to learn more about how managed approach could look for your business, take a moment to explore our other episodes. And until the next time, keep building, keep growing, and make sure your IT is helping you move forward and not holding you back. Thank you. Until next week.